Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ms. Ramirez de Lopez, and I have another great lesson for you to start talking about child care services. Our focus in these courses will be education and training, looking at working with children. From this text, we have a good variety of vocabulary and understanding to better suffice our learning process. We'll go over a couple of terms and vocabulary for today's course. We'll ask you to read that chapter through this entire week. At the end of the week, you will have some comprehension questions that will question and make you think about what educational practices you'll want to involve yourself with. For today's course, we do have our discussion. Name one local child care location. After reading the text, I want you to go back and look at our environment. Look at the places that you local or that you go buy groceries, you come to school, which is a child development center. Again, I'll need a name of a local place for our chat. Now, no, you cannot copy somebody else's work, so you want to get in the very first response, because if everybody else already wrote that, you need to find a different location. You might want to check Google or take a stroll around your neighborhood. Take a drive and see what locations, what child care opportunities are available for you and your families or for the people in your community. I'll go on to the next response here, which will be your actual assignment. Working with Young Children, Chapter 1. We have this video lecture that you'll be participating in. You have the chapter that you'll be reading, and then you have the terms you need to know. For today's coursework, I'm going to ask that you fill in all of the terms so that you have an understanding of what is happening in this chapter. Next video will give us a little bit of information on the topics and the true understanding for that comprehension. You'll need to read the chapter independently, but we'll start off with a couple of key terms that you'll need to know. The very first one is early childhood. We're talking about children from birth to 9 years old. Again, that's birth to 9 years old is early childhood. When children are developing, learning to play, we call this their exploration phase. They're very talkative. They'll go from being babies all the way through their play stage up to toddlers and into that school mode. We want to foster that learning because it's a great opportunity for us to infuse them with learning opportunities, with engagement, with a sense that learning is just that, an opportunity. It is not a difficult task. It can be, but it is an opportunity for them to flourish. The next content here we'll hit is pre-kindergarten. Pre-kindergarten is a wonderful opportunity that our Head Start programs created. This gives our students a platform to come in and learn through play. That kindergarten and pre-kindergarten have developed guidelines as well as the TEKS to scaffold their learning and allow them to explore. This is a time when students are being given information overload, and it is a good thing because they're able to accept it, understand it, and take it all in. This is a crucial time, and for myself, personally speaking, the most fun in teaching. This is when you get to bring in magic to all students, when you get to do science experiments that are very basic, but it is an experience for the children to learn and understand information. Now we'll go on to our next topic here, looking at nannies and au pairs. Not everybody has the opportunity to put their children into a pre-K or a kindergarten classroom for their learning, as it's not a state requirement. If you did not know, you don't have to come to school until you're in first grade. We highly recommend that students come in before that so that we can scaffold their learning and help support their understanding. When they start first grade, we do already want them to be reading, knowing their letters, their sounds, and being able to manipulate numbers at that point. To get them there, we want them to come as early as possible. Now, if you don't have the opportunity to come to pre-K, or you're in a state or city that doesn't have those opportunities for families, we have nannies that take care of children for long periods of time. They might live with the family, or they might come and stay with the family for a set amount of time. They are paid for their services to take care of, maybe drive to school, any sort of piano lessons, guitar lessons. Maybe they teach them a language and they interact with them in that platform. Now, we do have au pairs, which is somewhat similar. They do all of those same responsibilities, but these are seen as people that come in from a foreign country or that are traveling with that family to a foreign country. They live room and board, which means the family that is hosting them gives them a place to live. They live with the family with the understanding that they're responsible for rearing the children, taking care of, and conditioning, teaching, feeding all of the children in the household. They are compensated with pay, but they're also given a place to live. The next topic here, we want to talk about licensing specialists. Now, these are going to be people that are specifically licensed, that are given that information. They're specialized from the state, and they're allowed to work with children and support their needs. Not all children are going to learn the same, and some of them are going to have needs that go outside of the teacher's spectrum, where they're going to need specialists. Now, we're talking about possibly hearing impaired or vision impaired, are very basic, generic, easy to understand concepts. And so we'll need a licensed specialist to come in that either does sign language for those students that cannot hear. We have the Braille reading, and they'll teach them how to read with the little bumps, the Braille that is on the text, and then you as teacher will have to understand and suffice that learning bridge there so that they have all of their information, they have all of their text, they have all of their resources, but those specialists will help bridge the connection between your learning and their understanding. The next concept that we're going to take a look at here are entrepreneurs that are seen in education. These are a lot of times seen as the people that are starting their own daycare systems or creating childcare services within their community. They are not affiliated with a school, but they are creating their own childcare system. Sometimes you see these chains of child daycares or children daycares that are very similar to one another, or they're owned by one company and created kind of like McDonald's, they franchise. And so those are entrepreneur opportunities that you have within the education and childcare system. We're going to take a look at our CDA, CDA is our Child Development Associate's credential. That gives adults an opportunity. It is a post-secondary system, which means you have to graduate high school and then continue on for that certification. Those of you graduating through the CTE education training program here at Memorial High School will have a similar certification, allowing you to be an assistant teacher or work at those daycare services, which means you have the skills to work with children, and you will be successful at doing so after completing our internship and our interactions with the learned process that we'll go through. We follow the Development Appropriate Practices, or the DAP, that teaches us age-appropriate activities to complete with the children. It also gives us opportunities to track their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and give them culture and social backgrounds, also including their personal interests. We always want to make sure that the students are engaged, and to have that engagement at maximum potential, you really want to have the students' interest focused. So if you have a classroom that is in love with fish, then you might want to have a fish tank in your classroom and do a unit about learning what animals live in the ocean, what animals lives in lakes, and going really in depth to that understanding, because then you'll have the students' engagement at all times. The very last thing we want to talk about in today's lecture are ethics. Ethics are that gut feeling that you have in your tummy when you're thinking or hearing something, when you're interacting with children. You want to put their best interest forward, and your ethics are the things that ground you to tell you this is a good choice for that child. Knowing sometimes we see kids break down and they have what we call meltdowns, which isn't a very good word for that, and we'll get a little bit more in depth when we start talking about behaviors later on. But they're having a moment of crisis where they're unhappy with the environment. When we have our ethics in tow, we're going to allow that student to have a personal moment to be upset about something. That moment that you're going to allow them to have is you having good ethics, knowing that that's not the right time and place to start barking orders or asking that child to do a certain thing. Now, we do want to keep in mind safety at all times. If there is a fire drill, you need that child to get up and move with you as quickly as possible, and you're going to do things that are unorthodox to get moving and get everybody in tail so that you are safe. However, when you are in a regular classroom and we are trying to complete a lesson and you have a student that is not wanting to participate or that is having an emotional outburst, you want to address that emotional outburst because that's part of your ethics. You want to do what's right by children, and then we want to make sure that that education is not being left behind. You can suffice that academic progress with other activities, or maybe hold them after class and have a small discussion so that their learning is not affected and they can still be a part of your class. Thank you so much for logging on for today's class lesson, Terms to Know. We will be going over these exact terms and then focusing on more so the content understanding of what they mean and what reflections we have for our learning. It was great learning with you today. I look forward to listening to your responses in your Terms to Know assignment. Please know that you are finding definitions for these terms either in the chapter or from your personal knowledge bank. Know that you can Google a lot of these. You will get a vast amount of definitions, and so it is your opportunity to start scaffolding and seeing what is a true definition to those topics.